Atlanta United Fan TV here with Jessica for your player ratings. We won 2-0 against LA Galaxy out west, a road game that some say it might have been our best road game win. So, some food for thought there. But in terms of our players and how they did, we'll pick our man of the match and go through their ratings. So first up would be Brad Guzan. How did you think he did?
I was a little critical of him last game, but I think he came out and had a really solid performance. He wasn't really tested with any big game-changing saves, but everything he had to do was excellent. He stayed focused, which I think is a real challenge as a goalkeeper when you're quite quiet to really react in the moments when you're needed. And I think when he was called upon, he really did that, and his distribution was a little better. I noticed a couple of really good throws he put out there, and it looked like he was looking for better areas today. So Guzan was solid for me, definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of a numerical rating, what score would you give him?
I'd say an 8 or a 9. There were no faults. I felt like I was kind of harsh on him last week, but I think it was warranted after that game. But today I'd say I didn't really have any criticism. So I'd say an 8, 9. Yeah.
We'll go with 8. All right. And so Chris McCann, for me, did really, really well this match as well. He also had a moment where he slipped Zlatan with a little bit of a dribble, and pretty much Zlatan was, taken out of that play. And then he gave a perfect through ball to, I think, Barco on that same play. So, not only that, I think he was very stout defensively today. So yeah, I would agree. I think he has something somewhere between a 7 and 8. I'll give him a 7 today. He wasn't stand out, but he was very, very good. How about Michael Parkhurst for you, the captain?
Solid, really solid. And I think a captain's role today was vital, because it's one of those games where you need communication, you need real motivation from the captain. I think he led as an example, because he had to be that middleman, organizing the fact that you're marking, arguably probably one of the best forwards in the MLS, and you've got to organize keeping Zlatan quiet, and I think he did a great job, and
especially on the road.
Yeah, and he's confident on the ball. That's what I love about Parkhurst. And what's crazy is sometimes you'll see him in the opposition end of the field, and that's what I love about our formation, because I was going to mention that about McCann too. Yeah. McCann was up on the edge of the 18, putting in crosses, and I think that's what our formation allows. So I like Parkhurst. I'd give him a 7 as well, I think. Yeah. 7, 8, probably an 8. Yeah, let's be honest.
Yeah, and LGP back with a vengeance again, and also playing more minutes on a road match than he has for most of the season. Actually, he hasn't made it to the second half.
Yes, no red card today, fortunately. Solid. Yeah. A little quieter than, last game he put in 2 of the best slide tackles we've seen. Indeed. But still strong. And again, we kept a shutout, so we have to really think about that defensively. We can't critique too much. And
both of, our entire back line, all 3 of them, they pretty much were playing out of the back almost exclusively. I don't think we had very nervy moments, I think of any part of the match really, in terms of having to really struggle playing out of the back.
So excellent composure, and I think that's what's so impressive against a strong team and away from home. There's one thing having confidence when you're playing in front of your home fans, right. No one's going to get on your back, not so much. You'd hope, Yeah, exactly, right. But when it comes to playing away from home in a different field, somewhere new, again, the change from turf to grass, they had that confidence with the touch on the ball. So I thought our defensive line was magnificent, and they got the shutout they deserved. So
I agree. So yeah, to give him a numerical score, I think I'd give him a 7 as well. Let's move on to our wing backs. Greg Garza, how did you think he did?
Garza, I think, was strong, pretty strong. I feel like it was a fairly quiet. I don't know how to describe it, but the game was a strange one, because no one was a standout, but everyone was just solid. Yeah. If that's a way to describe it, I feel like Garza was solid. He did some good things going forward. He also did some not so great things, a couple of poor touches, but I think we attacked down the wings well, and we were putting in some crosses into dangerous areas, and I think that was important. So maybe like a 6 or a 7. Do you think that's a little harsh? What would you say?
I mean, yeah, I think you know, again, he didn't have a standout performance, but he, you know, put in the balls into the box that he needed to, and they were fairly on point. Yeah, just nothing really spectacular, I guess. But so yeah, I would agree. Yeah, something around a 6 or 7. So let's go with 6.5. Yeah, why not?
Positive,
Yeah, right. Why not? So Julian Gressel, he maybe was a little quieter than some of his matches at the Benz, but
He set himself such a high level. I feel like when you're playing at a 9 every week, sometimes you're allowed to get away with a 7 or an 8, you know. And I think I would say he was strong, but there were a couple of balls that I feel like in a different game would have been into a better area. A couple of touches that were a little off, but you know, as a whole, Gressel's Gressel, you know, he's a hero, you know, like
he's creating so much width by playing where he is, and really he's staying on that touchline. So it's
making that field large and giving us
exactly
that space, which you know I tell my kids all the time. You need to, when you have the possession, make that field big, because that's, you know, you close it down when the other team has it, but when you have it, make it as big as possible, because that's where you have your time, and he makes time for himself, which is why things look easier for him. Because he makes that time for himself by getting wide. So,
so I think also with his just powered shot that hits the crossbar.
How many times did we hit the crossbar in that series, though?
I think at least twice, probably 3 times.
And finally we scored.
Yeah,
gosh.
Exactly. But so that kind of has a part to play in the goal. So you know, give him a little bit of a little boost. Give him a 7. Now let's move to Lorenowitz. How did he do for you?
I mean, with a holding defensive mid, I feel like if you don't notice them, that's a good sign. Which sounds kind of strange, but I feel like if you're keeping quiet, so I felt like he was fairly quiet, but in a good way. He was doing his job. He
kept Zlatan quiet.
Professional, right? He's just a solid professional. I think we talked before, and potentially he was given sort of a man-marking role of keeping Zlatan quiet. And what did Zlatan do all game? I know I was crossing my lips, not saying anything because I didn't want to curse it, but. You know, did you really notice Zlatan on the field tonight? And so that's amazing for, you know.
The only thing I noticed from Zlatan was that he had to pick the ball up from deep and was trying to create, and it didn't quite work. And nothing really came off for him, so thank God.
Good sign for Jeff, right?
So some would say he probably had it in his pocket. You know, we'll say. Okay, so moving on to Darlington Nagbe. How did he do for you?
Yeah, good. Again, I think Nagbe did the quiet work. You know, there was a lot of running. I feel like he did the hard work, not necessarily the most rewarding work. He had a couple of shots that were within good areas.
I saw him doing some defensive work too. He came all the way back, like he was doing
like the running, the leg work. He was the box-to-box player today, and that's what you need. You just need someone to bust their butt to get back, and I think he did that, and he did offer stuff going forwards. And sometimes you can't rate a player based on like how much they offer towards like actually contributing to the goals or whatever, but I think his unseen efforts were pretty good. So
yeah, I think he's able to keep possession so well for us.
He's unbelievably strong. We've said it before, right? For someone built like him, he gets his strength from somewhere. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think it's definitely very similar probably to Barco, where he's got that lower center of gravity. It definitely helps him out. So yeah, to give him a score, I think it's my turn, right? So I'll give him a 7 as well. Like he did really well.
Good number.
Yeah. So Ezequiel Barco. Or actually, no. Well, let's go to Miguel Almiron since he's in the middle before, because Ezequiel Barco started as the second striker tonight. So Miguel Almiron as our 10. You know, what's the score for you?
I think I've been kind of harsh on Almiron lately, but I think he had a really strong game, and I think that he offered a lot going forward, but also a lot defensively. And I think he
won that penalty.
Yes, he did, and he's an unsung hero because. Sometimes he offers a lot more defensively than we give him credit for because he's so magnificent going forwards, but he isn't exactly. It's for someone that's so forward-minding, the fact that he can work back and he's actually a safe defender. You know, there's some of those defenders when forwards get back, you're like holding your breath, like, oh my goodness, why are they in the area? But I feel like with Almiron, you can trust him. And I think what I was really impressed with how he stepped up to take that second PK because, you know, I know he scored one more recently than the miss, but the last PK he took away from home, he missed. And I think that as much as, you know, there was about a minute and a half left, it was a clinical and very important moment because that changed the game. The game was done then. You know, we all took a sigh of relief because, you know, it was done. So
He always goes to his left too. I've never seen him not take a penalty and go to his left.
And in my opinion, that might be some poor goalkeeping coaching, because you should have that on the video.
Should be scouted.
Should be scouting, right? I mean, with Almiron, you should know by now.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest, he's got no right foot. We've said it before. So, but I thought that was one of my favorite games for him. So I'd say like an 8 or potentially pushing on to a 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with Ezequiel Barco, who made his first MLS start. I think for me, he did really, really fantastic in terms of so much better. The way he kept possession, he was able to wriggle away from any sort of pressure from LA Galaxy, and then just the weight of passes he was able to give the other players. I especially remember one where he shook off a player and then put a ball over the top, I think, to Gressel to send him away. I think he had a much better game than last match.
Definitely. But you also got to give him more time. And I think there's a huge difference between starting a game where everyone's on that same level, right? When everyone starts a game, everyone's kind of gradually getting into it. When you join a game 70 minutes in, half the team's warmed up, they've got their touch, they've had their first touches, and you're kind of thrown into the middle of it and expected to catch up suddenly. So I think that helped, along with, as you said, extra minutes, more time with the team. But he's a live wire, and he's very exciting to watch. And I think as a fan, you can't complain.
I think this is only just the start of
he's got so much more to offer.
Exactly, and you could tell that they were really handing him the ball later on in the match, or not later on in the match, but later on in his time when he was on the field, and he was really bossing the game from the left, from the middle. For me, I think he receives like a 7.5, like a really good MLS debut.
He's going to get far more points, but right now he didn't have long enough, and
it was about 80 minutes, so I think fair enough. I didn't have him starting, but the fact that he got so many minutes is very, very encouraging.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so, lastly, Josef Martinez of the starters. What's your score for him?
Well, I was critical of Martinez last week, and that attitude thing. He seemed better today. What I love to see, and I'll say it, I loved the fact that I saw him on that bench celebrating Almiron's penalty like it was his own penalty. Yeah. And I'll put my hands up and say, you know what, maybe I was a little harsh on him and his attitude. He worked hard today, disappointed with the penalty. Think that the stutter run might have been a little bit too confident, potentially. I don't like seeing that from anyone. It's not Martina, like a Josef hating thing. Right. It's just, I think anyone that goes up to a PK and takes a stutter kick, particularly the goalkeeper, it's like, that is the cockiest thing. And if you read it right, as the goalie did, and I think that's what people were saying, he's unlucky he hit the post. Well, the goalie had it covered. I don't know if you saw, but that goalie did. He guessed the right way, and even if it had been a little bit inside, but he worked. What I was really impressed with was how he recovered from that, because it would have been easy to set his head down, but about 2 minutes after the PK, again, he's in the right place. It hits him, but it hits him and he follows in. So glad he got his goal. Glad to see that. A little disappointed that he's hurt, because that's the thing. I'm not a Martinez hater. I'd like to get that out there. I rate him as a finisher. I rate him as a player, but I think sometimes he can be a little down in the dumps when things aren't going his way. But today it seemed nice to see him on the bench. So I give him kudos for that. So on a personal level, I owe him like a 7, I feel like. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he got a goal as well. So, I mean, I would say, maybe he boosts up just to 1 for Nate. For me, but and so our subs, they kind of came on with not really a whole lot of time left.
Romario, that's
Romario, he did win that penalty, so definitely props to him.
He got a yellow card, but it was a smart. I'm gonna go with it being good game management, slowing down the play. But I'd like to see more of Romario Williams, as I said before. But I think he was exciting, and he gets the ball, and he won us a PK. He won us a free kick in a dangerous area the other day. Absolutely. Won us a PK today, so.
So, I think ultimately,
you can't give him enough points. He didn't have long enough to have an impact.
Yeah, Kratz, Romario Williams, and Zizo, they were all kind of on there for about 10 minutes or less.
And it was just for game management. It was smart game management by Tito. He's just trying to slow the game down, get the substitute. Yeah, sorry. I don't know where that came from.
It's all good. So, no, definitely, Tata pulled the strings right tonight as well. So, in terms of a score for him, what's your score for Tata Martino?
I go... I was critical again last week of the substitution timing, but I think today was smarter. I think that he used them to manage the game. He did a good job, and
Seemed like he didn't really want to make a substitution.
well, when things are going the way that they were going, there wasn't really. Yeah. I think he was actually more forced to make substitutions based on fatigue and injury because you got to be smart when you're bringing Barco back, and Martinez was kind of hurting. So I'd say 8 or a 9 for Tata. Honestly, I think it was solid. Can't really find any faults in his decision making there. Definitely.
And I think we got to shout out our away fans that went. I think
I noticed that. Yeah, I swear I heard Atlanta United at one point. So
heard the ATL chant, heard a whole bunch of different chants.
You wouldn't want a vacation in LA if you can, right? So I'm a little envious, honestly. I would have liked to have been there, but
I agree.
What a following we have, and showing LA Galaxy, because LA Galaxy is the one that everyone's heard of, the MLS team that everyone's heard of, and we're showing them.
They're arguably, the top team in MLS or whatever, but not.
Who won today? So.
Exactly. We didn't get Zlatan. We definitely, pulled out a really impressive away win on the road. Oh my God! I think we can't really ask for much more.
It was worth staying up for. That's what I say, because it must be 2 a.m. right now.
Yeah, it is late in Atlanta. I'm not really sure that we should do too many more of these late starts, guys. MLS, yeah, guys. Either way, anyway, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you next time.